So I highly suggest to anybody, especially once you start seeing some traction, start getting some sales, make sure your books are correct, okay? Make sure your things are reported. Even if, I didn't really have enough money for a bookkeeper at that time to pay a bookkeeper, but I would at least, maybe just had somebody review my books every 6 months, or, before I did my taxes, somebody really dive deep into my thing. I would have figured out a way to do it because it was just that important. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 9% Show. I am your host, Stephen Burton, here at the 9%. Y'all know we keep everything 100. If I haven't done it, not doing it, or not about to do it, it will not come out my mouth. So like we always do around this time here on the 9%, we take a toast to the 9%ers out there and those that would like to get into the 9% club one day. Cheers to y'all. All right, so we're gonna get popping with another episode here. Today we are talking about what I would change during my first year in business, okay? For those that do not know, I'm about 8 years into my current business, Perfect Tux, and I'm gonna talk about that first year, okay? Because no matter how I make things seem here on the 9% or just, getting 8 years into a business, everything had to be sweet, right? Everything had to be good? Nope, it sure wasn't. It's kind of tough because I'll link to some other videos here that, I talked about my first year, how I became profitable in my first year super quick, like in 3-4 months, how, I made $300,000 in my first year business. So there's been some great things that I did really, really great, like out the gate in business. And it's just a fact. It is what happened. But I did have some things where I'm like, I thought back to like, okay, there's some things that I know now that I would give myself if I could go back and do some things slightly different. So that's what we're going to talk about this episode. What things will we do? I was able to come up with 4 things that I would give myself some advice on to do different during that first year in business. And hopefully you will take these things and run with it your own self. So before we dive deep into this thing, please like this video, subscribe to the channel by liking and doing all that good stuff and commenting. It definitely helps people find the channel. So please do that. It means a lot to us here at the 9%. Okay. So we're going to dive into these 4 things about what I would do different in my first year in business. And the number one thing that honestly, I still feel 8 years later, which is hilarious, is my startup inventory buying decisions. I kid you not, I still have to this day some red bow ties and some white bow ties that I still have 8 years later, okay? Why do I still have these things 8 years later? Is because when I started the business, I was leaving a company that I was working for that was similar. And I had some data on like what was working for them, what was working for this basic, formal wear industry, certain basic stuff. And so I was like, hey, I need some basic stuff. So I bought, 100 bow tie, 100 black bow tie, 100 red bow tie, 100 white bow ties, and, basic black tuxedos, And there was just pretty much, lo and behold, the things that we were known for, being a fashionable, unique men's formal wear company, I rarely sell a black tux. I rarely sell like accessories. Matter of fact, I hate to just sell a bow tie. You ain't making me no money. I might lose some money on this sale, being honest with you. So I bought a lot of things that I just thought was like staples before I knew my customer, before I knew what we were gonna do different, before I knew what was going to make me stand out and what was make people buy from me. So all of my basic stuff that I had, I like literally had for years. And I kid you not, there is still some bow ties that I have to this day. We done put them on sale. We done did everything but throw them away. I'm not really tripping too hard because they're just bow ties, and it's not like it's a grip of money, but it's a decision I made 8 years ago that I still have to this day. And it's because, so thinking back to it, there wasn't no crazy, horrible decisions, but there was just some items, some of my suits and some of my tuxedos, more higher price things that does add up. I definitely had to get rid of them. I had to discount them along the years and try to like get rid of some of this inventory. So that is something I would tell myself, so what would I have done different? I would have just, being e-commerce and being a situation where I didn't necessarily need to have so much inventory on hand, I probably just wouldn't have started with nothing. I literally would have started with scratch and just, as I got orders, just got things in, just slow by slow. Like just see where things are at, whatever the customer is moving towards. That's what I would have did. I probably would have started with no inventory at all, to tell you the truth. Like I would have just been like, as I go. Cause I didn't start with a store. It was just pure e-commerce. I didn't need to buy all this initial inventory. That's what I would have did. And I probably could have used that extra. I probably spent, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000 on like initial inventory at the time. And I probably could have used that $3,000 to $5,000. So that's something there. That's number one. The number two thing I would have done differently is I would have got a bookkeeper. Okay, this is something that obviously you need to do when you start seeing some traction, start getting some sales, which I did have sales very quickly, and but not having a bookkeeper cost me dearly for my first 2-3 years in business. Once I finally got a bookkeeper, I had to correct so many previous years of books, taxes. Like it was just a big headache. It cost me a lot of money. Whereas if I wouldn't have known to do it correct the first time from the beginning, it would have saved me money in the long run. So I highly suggest to anybody, especially once you start seeing some traction, start getting some sales, make sure your books are correct. Okay. Make sure your things are reported. Even if I didn't really have enough money for a bookkeeper at that time to pay a bookkeeper, but I would at least, maybe just had somebody review my books every 6 months or, before I did my taxes, somebody really dive deep into my thing. I would have figured out a way to do it because it was just that important. So that was a thing where, for me, by the time I finally, like I said, 3 years in, I started realizing my books was all wrong and taxes was all wrong. Like it was just to the point where my bookkeeper, who I have to this day, one of my previous years found an extra $20,000 that was underreported to the IRS. And it was like, if they did an audit on me, they'd be thinking I was trying to hide that money. And I'd just been like, I don't know. I was just clicking this button on QuickBooks. I don't know. So it would have been kind of crazy. But a crazy thing about that is that extra $20,000 we end up putting on next year's money and reported over $20,000 just to make it make sense. And that money extra actually helped me qualify for the home we got currently. So it kind of helped out, go back and forth. But it definitely was a pain in the butt and cost me a lot to fix all these previous years. So especially in e-commerce with so many sales, taxes in different counties, different cities. It was just pain, returns, refunds. It was crazy. So I would have definitely got a bookkeeper. Okay. The number 3 thing we'll talk about is kind of tied in with bookkeeping and things like that, is understanding cash flow. I didn't quite understand the seasonality of my business or what would become my business and how important cash flow was. I was smart enough to not spend the money I made as soon as it came in because dealing with returns, I was always scared about returns and I always knew they was existing. But part of being, trying to establish myself as a true business and giving customers the confidence to buy from us was having a return policy. So I was definitely aware of that. So when I got a big sale in, I just knew I couldn't go spend that money because when you're a new business, it's your first year, every profit you make is literally right there. And if you spend all your profit up and somebody come back and talk about a return or something, you ain't got no money to give them. So I was already conscious about returns and I was trying to hold the money, until 30 days go by I had at the time and things like that. But what I didn't really know was just how important cash flow was, and specifically dealing with understanding that we were a seasonal business and getting through the fourth quarter. That is the lowest time for the formal wear industry. And it was I probably felt it more in my second year in business, but if I could go back and give myself some advice during that first year, it was to understand cash flow, understand the seasonality of my business so that I could prepare for when that growth does happen. Because I definitely hit that growth growth moment. And I was like, oh, we balling out here. And then I wasted a whole lot of money. And by the time the slow season came, I was struggling. So I would have definitely, gave myself a heads up to understand cash flow, understand the seasonality of my business, and just how I can get through the years and things like that. So that's definitely one thing I would do different. The next thing and the final thing I would talk about my first year is not to be scared to put myself in the front. Okay, not to be scared to tell my story. I was terrified specifically being a Black-owned business. I was terrified saying, like, to be in the forefront, especially for like formal wear and suits and things like that. It wasn't like I was like starting a business that was what you guys see now for Perfect Tux, and we were proudly Black-owned, and you see Black models and all this stuff all over the place. It wasn't necessarily that at the beginning. So I was nervous that if I was known as the owner of the black owner of Perfect Tux, that people wouldn't take me serious or they wouldn't shop with me and things like that. And it kind of really sucks to have them thoughts process. And I've spoken to other founders and Black founders before, and it's been a similar story. So I know it's just not me, but I was scared to be in the forefront. I was scared to tell my story. My about page on the website didn't have my picture on it. Didn't have nothing going on. Didn't really quite say what my story was and why I started Perfect Tux. Everything you see now on Perfect Tux is just night and day to what it was. But I would really go back to that first year and just give myself that confidence to be like, man, do you. Like, be proud of who you are. Be proud of what you're doing here. Be proud of what you're selling. Tell your story. Why did you start it? Like, people do care about your story. People do care about, like, how you develop this brand. It is something I used to think people didn't care about it, but it makes sense now. Like, I find myself when I go to a new website, shopping somewhere, I go to that about page, or I want to know who I'm dealing with, and it's kind of cool when you go over there and see a little family sitting there, like, oh, we're a family business. So, maybe make somebody want to shop with you. Heck, it makes some people want to buy with me because we was Black-owned. To this day, we get people, oh, y'all Black-owned? Okay, cool. I want to mess with y'all, So it definitely helps. But I think it definitely took me a couple years, honestly, to get comfortable. It honestly took me, I would say, 3 years, actually. 2019 is when it kind of hit me, and I was like, cool. It started in 2016. So, yeah, 3 years it took me to feel comfortable to tell my story and to put myself in the forefront, like I am the CEO and founder of Perfect Tux. And now look at me. Got 9%, got all this stuff. I'm here, okay? I am me. And I'm not wearing a suit. I'm just being me. That's all I could be is me. And once you feel comfortable in your own skin to be you on anything you do in life, that is the ultimate freedom, okay? So, short and sweet episode this week. Like I said, I ain't got too many mistakes. Click them videos of how we was dominating. So we talk about a lot of the good things in this show because, hey, good things happen to me. And I can't fake the front and act like a whole lot of bad things happened to me in my first year because, I was getting it, and that's the stuff I'm trying to teach you. But there was some things I would do different, and that's what I wanted to give you and keep the real side of the negative side of things. We like to talk about the negative side of things sometimes too. But yeah, that's it. Short and sweet episode. And hey, I'll catch you next time on the 9%. Till then, please subscribe to our channel. Really goes a long way, like I mentioned before, and all that good stuff. See you next week on the 9% Show. Peace.